Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the JRS Cars YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be answering just one question, and one very important question. That, my friends, is should you be installing lowering springs on your vehicle? And to test that out, to understand all there is about lowering springs, we have the perfect candidate, and that, my friends, is this, the Virtus GT with the 1.5 engine. Yes friends, so this is the latest acquisition of my friend, and yes, he is extremely proud of this car. As you guys can see, white car, black roof, makes the car look really very sinister. But one thing which does affect the looks of the vehicle, and that, my friends, is this massive 180mm ground clearance, and of course the massive tire gap over here. So friends, you know that the Virtus GT and the Slavia do have a 180mm ground clearance, and that does make it very practical for driving on our Chennai city roads. However, that does give the vehicle a bit of a raised SUV stance, which of course my friend sitting inside really does not like. So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how the car was to drive before we got the springs and after, so that you can make a decision whether you want to put lowering springs on your vehicle with the pros and cons. Let's begin straight away. Alright guys, so finally driving the VW Virtus, and yes friends, this is before we have installed the lowering springs on the vehicle. So to give you guys a proper look at to exactly what the lowering springs do make an effect on the driving experience, we will be driving across the same section of road, so that you will know, from my perspective at least, what would be the improvement or the effect of having lowering springs on your vehicle. So yes, this, my friends, is a brand new Virtus, and yes, you will be getting a full review on this vehicle coming very soon to the channel. So for a stock car, the car of course does give you a very commanding view of the road ahead, thanks to of course the 180mm ground clearance. And the car does feel pretty good. I mean, you don't have any of the wallowiness what you would expect from a car such a high ground clearance. And let's quickly just tackle this one speed breaker over here. Alright friends, so now I do have a fair idea of at least how the vehicle rides with the stock setup. Stay tuned and see just how much of a difference we have once we lower it. Alright friends, so now we are driving this lowered Virtus. What was something which I planned to do, something almost immediately after the lowering, has happened like almost 2 months later, and the car has already driven 4,000 kilometers after having the lowering springs installed. So as promised in the previous video, we will be driving on the exact same route with these lowering springs to see whether there's any difference in the way the car feels or handles, and to finally help you in deciding whether you should actually get lowering springs for your Virtus GT or any car for that matter. Now, the last time I did this review, the car was still in its run-in period, so I was not able to push the car as such. But now, since the car has well crossed its run-in period, we can actually find out whether these lowering springs have had an impact on the way this car drives. Right off the bat friends, yes, I am able to feel a little bit of a more stiffer ride, and that is pretty evident the moment I started driving the vehicle. Of course, we'll be driving on the exact same road, but for now let's take a small detour over here. Let's pretend the cow is a slalom. Yes friends, so definitely the car does feel more direct in the way it drives, and you feel slightly that little bit, maybe 15-20% better connected to the road, and that's pretty evident in the way the car handles. Now yes, if you were to get lowering springs for, let's say, a non-German car, maybe let's say a Hyundai or a City, in those cars you would probably feel and find the car being a much stiffer, and at the same time maybe really improving your dynamics. But the owner tells me after driving this car for a good 4,000 kilometers after the lowering springs, the car does not change much in its driving dynamics and character. Yes, of course, the car is maybe 20-30% more stiffer. As you can see, taking this bump, you can feel a little bit of extra stiffness in the vehicle. If you really want the look which these lowering springs give you, then yes, I would recommend getting these springs if you like the look. Apart from that, yes, the Virtus GT with its 1.5 TSI, always a pleasure to drive, and yes, even on stock tires, stock brakes, stock everything else, feels like a much more grown-up car, and you do feel you're driving, let's say, a mini Octavia rather than a car which is something like a Vento or something. Again, back to the same road we drove last time. yes, the car does feel a little bit of extra stiffness, and that is only seen on bumps. So as you know, Chennai has very bumpy roads, and on all these bumps you can feel a little bit of that extra stiffness when you go over it, especially on speed breakers. However, with this 25 and 35 mm drop, with the lower ground clearance, the car has not been scraping on any of the regular speed bumps. But of course, you never know in India when you're going to come across a speed bump which is, let's say, very unethically designed. Apart from that, my final verdict, or what would I conclude by saying with the lowering springs? If you really want your car to look really very good with that stance look, then yes, lowering springs are definitely the way to go. They do compromise your ride quality by a little bit, but again, the looks really compensate for that. However, if you are a regular person looking for a car just for A to B use, and you want that little bit of extra plushness and ride comfort which a stock car gives you, then that would be the best choice, because this lowering springs, yes, they do really improve the way the car handles, but there is a slight trade-off when it comes to ride quality, as you guys just saw. So friends, that's pretty much my verdict when it comes to lowering springs, and this particular vehicle has Cobra lowering springs. So yeah friends, if you found the video useful, do give the video a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next video really soon. Take care, bye, drive safe, and yes, stay subscribed for a complete review on this Virtus GT, as well as a very interesting video comparing, if you are a petrol head and if you have 20 lakhs to spend, should you buy a brand new Virtus GT or should you buy a used 320D? All this and more coming up soon. Stay subscribed. Take care. Bye.